More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants, including the $155 Walmart Plus monthly membership credit and $240 flexible business credit. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Ampire. Hello, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Look at that mug. A Metro mug with cherry blossoms on it. Look at that. Look at that. Where'd you get that?
From the WMATA shop, playa. You gotta ask the merch king over here. I know when everything comes out.
WMATA shop. I didn't even know they had a shop.
Last year was one of my favorite things they've ever done. They parked a Metro bus on the mall, and it was a shop, and you could just go buy Metro gear. It was awesome. So I bought like a mug, a bag.
What's it got? Like a Metro map on it? Like a T-shirt with a Metro map?
They had one of those. I didn't buy that one. They had one that just had like the like the brutalist, style of the tunnel. It was just the tunnel on the shirt. I bought one of those. And then they had socks that were different Metro stops. So like I bought Gallery Place socks that have red and green and yellow because they look like it has all the lines on them. So yeah.
You know many more things in this realm than I do. I wouldn't even have imagined that existed, that Metro would have a shop. But good for them.
Oh, dude, you should. All right, hold on. I'll just, I'll free plug them here. You go to their website. They have a shop that you can get a lot of the stuff on, and you would be surprised about how cool everything they have is. They sell metal signs that look like any station that you want. That look like the pillars that you see outside. Yeah, dude, they actually are really good at it. They don't promote it though. That's what's funny about it.
Can you could customize that? Like I could make it Bram's house?
No. No, you have to like pick the station though. So like you have to pick any station on the line is what I'm saying.
Would they do that? I'll ask that publicly. Would you do that? Would you do Bram's station?
I mean, it's probably not hard to do. You could probably put that in the old suggestion box. They like making money now, so their shop is actually really, really good. They have a whole bunch of Panda stuff too. Like it's actually crazy good.
All right. Noted. All right, noted. All right.
It's rare my mug distracts you like that because I do have a lot of
a weird mug. I was like, where in the world did you get that? Like, who sent that to it's more like who sent that to you and why didn't I get one? That's all I was going with that. When I see people get things that I know, like in all likelihood it was given to them, I want to know where they got it and why I didn't get one. That's all it is. Okay. All right. Let's see. Moves are ramping up. Here we go. Eagles release both of their older corners. James Bradbury, who, not surprised, he was essentially replaced by Quinyon Mitchell. And Darius Slay, who's now 34, but had a pretty good year on the best defense in the NFL, has stated he wants to play one more year, might end up going back if he's willing to play for not very much money. I have a funny feeling he might go back to Detroit and play with them for one more year. That's a possibility. That's where he was before he went to Philadelphia. That turned out to be a great trade for the Eagles through the years. Quinyon Mitchell clearly is a number one starter for them. They don't really have a replacement for either one of them, but I guess they feel like, why pay either? Well, Bradbury, I'm not surprised, but Slay, like, could they replace him? Yes. So I know this one's going to pop up, not Bradbury, I don't think. Do you want Adam Peters to go after Darius Slay as a second corner here? And I'd be open to that on a one-year deal. Honestly, I would be.
Yeah, I think you make the call. I mean, nothing hurts trying to kick the tires on this one. I do think there's probably, this is rare in the NFL, but there's probably a little bit of team loyalty involved here. Like, does he want to come play for this team after winning the Super Bowl there? And I don't know if you did you see the story with him and Big Dom? Like, he was going to leave. And then Big Dom was like, we need you. Like, you're part of the family. And then he signed on, I think it was 2 years ago, whatever his last contract was, that he's decided, okay, fine, I'll go ahead and re-sign here, and he won a Super Bowl. So I do think there's probably a little bit of loyalty, but I'm with you. I think you're kicking the tires on every single cornerback that's a veteran, in this free agency class. I'm open to it. So yeah, that's interesting.
For a year. And if the object is to move Sanderstill inside and you have Lattimore, well, you do need another corner, and that's got to happen one way or the other, whether it's free agency or the draft. It doesn't feel like that they're picking a corner very early in the draft, whether they stay at 29 or not. That feels like any projection has them with edge rushers or potentially offensive linemen if the right one falls to them. There aren't very many that are picking a corner for them. I saw what was Jordan Reed's actually had, and I'm not surprised by this, in the second round, them going running back. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they do that too. So this kind of goes back to, I don't think they can fill everything they really need. I think they need a couple more off seasons to really do it. So I'm open to bridge players like Slay, who wasn't bad. Last year, he was very good for them. And if he's open to a one-year deal to play here because the Eagles don't end up bringing him back, call me interested on that. It doesn't look like it. I don't want Bradbury. I think Bradbury's days are a little bit behind him. That's just my own personal opinion. But I think Slake, you could squeeze out the juice of one more year from him. And this team needs another corner. So I'd be open to that one.
No, and once again, like the shine up of, I'm not saying this isn't me disparaging the Eagles culture, but I am saying the way that it works here is every player since this new regime has come in has played up to their abilities, if not better to their abilities. So I'd expect that he would continue to play really well in this defense.
Yeah, so we'll see. The other thing that they did was they just bucked the trend around the league, and they said Saquon Barkley had arguably the greatest season any running back has ever had, and so we're just going to reward him instead of then telling him, now you're worth less than you were worth, or like it's almost like a shot fired to the NFL going, we can do this. We will do this. We will make him happy. We will pay him like the star that he is. And the rest of you can sit there and do hard knocks and pretend that there's a line where you can go with running backs, but you can't go any higher than that. So congratulations, Saquon Barkley. You have literally broken the mold and have put running backs back in the position of at least being able to say, look, the elite ones should be paid like this.
Not only that, it also shuts people up like me that go, well, there's only 2 years left of Saquon. So as long as that's okay, like that's their window. Well, now they have 4 years left of Saquon, and he's done all the right things too. Like, say what you want about them being our division rival, but like he did the whole thing where he could have broken the rushing record and then he let whoever their backup was get some playing time, in the end of the season. And he was saying all the right things as well. Like he never even went, back to the Giants side of things and like badmouth them. He says all the right things. He's the equivalent to like Terry McLaurin in terms of his attitude as well. I'm not surprised that like they are extending him. I am surprised though. I think tweet of the day yesterday was within a calendar year, he got his 3-year deal and a 2-year extension. That's pretty shocking for a running back in today's day and age. And you're right. This is a shot across the rest of the league going, we're going to do things the right thing. We're going to do the right things here, whether you guys like it or not.
Well, I think this goes back to, and I have felt this way for a long time, that you just pay your stars like that. That's all. You pay your stars. And I'll hear out we're not going to overpay average to above average running backs. But when you have a special player, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is one of these now that like they're going to have this conversation about him in a couple of years when his contract comes up because he's a special player that I think you just pay them the going rate because they're special players and you stop fiddling with, well, it's this or that or the other thing. Like what San Francisco is going through with Brock Purdy right now, I think is natural, which is you and I both know you're not a top 5 quarterback, but we do think you're really good. And we want to pay you somewhere in the neighborhood that puts you amongst the top 10 quarterbacks. And they're going to have an argument back and forth. And I think it's the proper argument to have with him because nobody thinks he's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, but he is really good for them. And this is what quarterbacks get paid. So let's find a spot in the middle where everybody's happy. The running back situation got weird. It didn't matter how good you were. Nobody valued you. And they just decided we're going to put a number on running back. Like running back gets number. That's it. There's no like discretion between, Saquon Barkley is a lot better than other people. I was like at this time last year when it became clear he wasn't going to come back to the Giants. Then they did Hard Knocks, and it was embarrassing how they kind of outed themselves as not understanding what they had in front of them. The whole time I'm sitting there going, how are they going to be good without him? How are they replacing him? Why don't they see that he's their best player? Like, I don't even understand that. And it's not like you don't have the cap room to keep him on your team. So why don't you want him? Like, why can't you just make him happy? And the weirdest part is that he's so lucky that it went down like this. And he probably realized this now. Not only did he win, and he's getting paid now, he was going to go by what they thought just to stay with them. Had they given him $1 million more than they were offering him, he would have just stayed because he didn't want to leave. And fortunately, it went down the way it went down, and that he finally just was like, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, you're nickel and diming your best player who makes a fraction of what Daniel Jones makes. What's wrong with you?
Right. And you and I, when he signed on with the Eagles last year, my number one thing too was that Giants offensive line was terrible, and he was still producing all throughout his career. And all I thought was, good God, now he has the best offensive line. And we saw exactly what happened last year when he went and signed on. And what I'll say is this too, it was him, Henry, and Jacobs, right? They were the three that got tagged and then had to play out the year, and they all hit free agency afterwards, right? And they all got a little bit of money. I wonder if this is going to put the pressure on like the Ravens and Henry and the Packers and Jacobs, or whoever the next running back is that they're going, oh, well, he got paid like that, and I produced, not as much like that, but really, really well. Is this the new market? This also pressures the other teams' front offices and those players' agents to do something too. This is a pure chess move too by the Eagles by going, we like our guy a lot. Do you like your guy a lot? And will it make your team better or worse what you do around him?
Yeah, it's almost trolling the rest of the league to overpay certain people, which I actually find funny too. Like they can do this because their defense is so young and not making any money, and they don't have to deal with contracts for the majority of them. Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, like they have a few more years, they have a couple more years where they have to pay them. They have the liberty to do this. And it's half trolling the league and basically going, okay, pay your guy. But like I've railed about this for a long time. If I was ever given the opportunity to work in a front office, I would fight the groupthink as much as possible. This is really anywhere. It happens in media too. We see this in our business as well. Like I've railed about this for years. In local news, they've cut sports departments. Why? Not because it's not valuable, but it's because somebody got this idea to do that. And then all these people followed it and acted like it was the right thing to do. And there's been a slow reversal of this as they realize that sports is a connective thing to their communities, and the people who watch their shows don't listen to shows like this and want to know what's going on with the teams, and therefore it's a community connective thing. And there's been a reversal of that, and there's more hiring of local sports people. Duh. Like why you would get rid of something that was valuable for your broadcast doesn't make any sense. This happens in the NFL too, where somebody just decided at some point that running backs are only worth a certain amount of money, period. That's it. And Joe Shane and others totally outed themselves as just believing groupthink without going out of the way to go, you know what? Like this guy's a Hall of Fame player. Like why can't we just go the distance for him as long as he's not asking for something that's outrageous? And the crazy part was, I don't think he was asking for anything outrageous. They just put some dumb line in the sand because the worldview of running backs was a certain way. And the Eagles go, okay, dummies, we'll take him then. Like, you guys don't want to keep the best running back in the NFL in the prime of his career because you don't want to pay him $12.5 million over, like, instead of $12 million? What's wrong with you guys? Get out of your dumb groupthink. And that's what happened here. And the Eagles, this deal is just trolling the league. That's all it is. They're just going, see, you could pay a really good player more than what you quote unquote think he's worth.
The most insulting thing to the Giants and the league was when they went through the Saquon chatter and then the draft chatter. And remember right away, you and I talked about it last year, where we're like, oh, this is just sports radio. Like they're just debating crap in the back rooms there.
They're listening to us.
Yeah. They're listening to us. Yeah. And so I just remember being like, oh, wow, this is not as complicated as you guys want to make it out to be. No one had like sheets of stats in front of them. They were just sitting on a sofa kicking crap around on the roster and who they might sign or who they want to draft. And I just remember going, oh, this is way easier than you guys are leading on, and you still screw it up. So, yeah, I'm not surprised the Eagles, though, are the ones that are going, it is a little bit harder than you think it is. That's just how they're operating over there.
I cannot believe that after that Hard Knocks episodes and the season they had, that the people are still there making those decisions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I can't believe that happened. Anyway.
Part of that is, though, because, and we know how this goes here a little bit too. Part of that is the Mara family. They don't want to keep firing people, but like this is the group they should have fired. Is the problem? Like they don't want to keep having to fire people every year or every other year or whatever. What I don't understand is what you're saying there. The evidence was sitting right there in front of you. This is one where everyone would have went, thank God you're moving on from these guys. They made a massive mistake. Your division rival won a Super Bowl because of the mistake that they made.
My favorite like New York position, a couple of my friends up there have said like, Hard Knocks is controlled by the NFL. So like it's not free reign to show you whatever you want. Like they have to clear what you're going to show. They're like, that's what we saw. What didn't we see?
Right.
What didn't they show that they got on tape? And I bet you some of that is probably like, whoa, whoa. If this is what was cleared for the airwaves, what wasn't?
This has to be the Hard Knocks that most affected, I think, a pressure within a season, right? Because
100%.
you had the Saquon stuff happen, you had the Daniel Jones stuff, which was really bad, honestly, in retrospect of like how they just threw him by the wayside, and when they didn't find a solution, asked him to be the starting quarterback again, and that only lasted half a year, and he's like, just let me go, don't even bench me, and they did let him go. Like that had to be the only Hard Knocks where you literally saw the decisions affect what happened in the season too.
Let's see. The other thing for the Eagles today is that Ian Rappaport basically said that it's not likely that they would get Myles Garrett, which is a relief, obviously, to me and everybody else. They don't need to get any more game-changing players on their team. Like they're tough enough to beat the way they are. We don't need them getting anybody else. And he basically described it as they'd kind of have to move hell and high water. And do they really want to? I don't know whether they really, really want to do something like that. And I do believe, I know some people were like kind of pushing back at me when I'm like, I do believe some of that other reporting where they were like, if it looks like he might end up here, that they would probably try to step in. But short of that, or maybe Detroit, but short of that happening, that they'll let him go. Like if somehow he's in some deal to go to Tennessee because Cleveland wants to get the number 1 pick to make sure that they get Cam Ward, and they figure something out where like he's incorporated in a deal like that. Well, like, okay, like, the Eagles will just let that happen, right? Like, and I think the rest of us will just let that happen. I don't think the timing's right. As much as I'd love to acquire him here, I just don't feel like the timing's right for this team with the resources that they have and the holes that they have to make that happen, because I think it would cost them down the road. And they're not one player away from getting where they want to get to. They're 5 to 10. And as much as I think he'd be a massive boy, he would fill an enormous hole and obviously change that for them. I just don't think the timing's right. And I think the Eagles, while I'm sure they'd love to get him, the real question for them would be, do we really have to shake up so much to make it happen, as long as he's not going to end up somewhere where he can hurt us? And so I don't think he ends up in either place. And at this point, I believe Cleveland to a point of that they don't want to trade him. I actually think if it happens before the draft, the only reason it would happen is to somehow end up with the number 1 pick to ensure that they get Cam Ward. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've said this as well. Like, I think I've come to the conclusion, I think a lot of NFL GMs have come to the conclusion that any of these trades, moving on from some of these players, they'd prefer to get next year's compensation than this year's compensation. Like that's how I feel about it. So after the draft sounds about right here. I also think what happens as well is like maybe somebody, maybe the Browns wait until training camp and they wait for someone to have an injury or something like that. And all of a sudden there is a premium for him. I don't know. I feel like they're just going to let this play out a little bit more. I don't think there's any urgency to get it done before the draft.
I think Tennessee's going to trade the number 1 pick, and I think Tennessee's going to get a haul for it. And I think they're going to get it from a desperate team. And I think that's either going to be Cleveland or it's going to be the Giants. That's what I think. I think the Jets would move up to get him. I think the Raiders would move up to get him. I don't know whether either one of those things are the right thing to do. And I'm not even sure that Tennessee should get off of it and not take him, because I don't think anybody sits there and goes that Will Levis is clearly the answer for them. But if there is, I think we're going to get a desperate team to be the Giants. Like, they're striking out pretty darn hard here. Like, they apparently gave Stafford exactly what he wanted, and we're willing to give the Rams what they wanted. And exactly what happened is what I thought would happen. Stafford then had an awakening of, do I really want to go there for an extra whatever it is, $10, $15 million? And I'm not dismissing that, but here's somebody who's made a ton of money in his career, playing out the end of your career? Or do you want to be in a situation where if you go 7-10, these guys get fired and you're stuck with whatever new coach got? Like, just going to be a horrible experience, and you know it. Aaron Rodgers is using them to get to wherever he wants to get to, obviously. Like, he's not going there. He's using them to get to where they're going to get desperate, and I bet that they overpay to get the number one pick. Ultimately happening. It's either going to be them or the Jets overpaying to get to the number one pick, and that's why I think Tennessee's going to trade out of it.
I think I came to this conclusion yesterday, too, with whoever does take a quarterback in the first round, whether it's Shador, Cam, whoever, that they need to go to their owner and say, we're taking a shot here, and we're going to know within a year or two whether we're on board with this guy or not. Because the way that this draft has been shaking out, everyone has said there's not an elite quarterback prospect here. And I feel like this has to be like a warning to whoever drafts any of those quarterbacks of like, we're going to find out real fast here within a year or two. And then if not, we're hitting the reset button again. Because I look at both of those guys and I don't see it happening fast. And if it doesn't happen fast, I have a feeling whoever drafts them is not going to be around to see them develop either.
I don't think any of these players are the three at the top of the draft a year ago.
I don't think they're the five.
Granted, I haven't, I'll be honest, I have not watched them the same way I watched those other quarterbacks, because we were going to take one. So I was watching a lot of tape on those other quarterbacks. I didn't know who we were going to get. And so I just wanted to be up on it. Obviously, we're not picking one. So I haven't watched them the same way. But for what I have seen, I would buy Cam Ward as like a prospect who I think has a higher ceiling and is a possibility. And to me, is not even close in what I've seen, the number one pick of quarterbacks. I don't know whether he should be the number one pick, but like the number one pick of quarterbacks, sure, I will see that. Don't at me with this. I just don't see it with Shador at all. And for a lot of reasons. Like, yes, I love his pedigree. Yes, I love who his dad is. Yes, I love all that stuff about him. I think he's going to be ready for this. I think he has dealt with, the criticism of being a high profile athlete, especially with a big name. And so I'm not worried about that part, about him coming in. All the criticism, whatever came out the other day where he was brash in these interviews or whatever. Yeah, no kidding. He's Deion's kid. Like, get over it. Like, so he has an ego. But he did say one thing that I thought was patently ridiculous, where someone said this is a big transition. And he was like, I already turned 2 pro around and was really successful there. Why don't you think I can do it in the NFL? And I'm like, buddy, Jackson State ain't the NFL. Like, you got to be kidding. Like, there are not players of your caliber in that league. So no kidding, if the Heisman Trophy winner and the son of an NFL legend show up and play in a league like that they make it look like Pop Warner and they win every game 60-3. So like when you went to Colorado, I'll hear you a little bit on, you guys were a lot better than people thought you were going to be. And you and Travis were a big, big part of that for sure. And I don't dismiss what you guys did. But again, I'll say the same thing. It's an enormous leap. And when I watch him, don't get mad at me when I say this, I don't think he's fast enough. I don't think he makes decisions quickly enough. And because of that, I think he's going to get sacked 1 million times. It's like at least his rookie year. And then we'll see what happens. And then it's really going to, and I'm on Deion's side on this, it really matters where he goes. Because if he ends up with the Giants, who are going to, when they go 5-12 with him, fire these guys, and then then he's stuck with some other new coach, it's all going to go haywire on him. So he, of all of them, he needs to land in a stable spot with a really good quarterback coach, because he's not athletic the way that Cam Ward is. Cam Ward is the modern, this is why I'll buy him. He can move. He's very athletic. He can make plays when the plays break down. That to me is, unless you are a really good, proficient, fast thinking, going to make decisions, pocket passer, you have to be able to do this. And I don't see either one of those things on Shador. So could he become a really good quarterback? Okay, sure. Why not? It's all there in his background that he could. But when I watch him, I go, I would not use a top 10 pick on him and think he's the answer overnight at all.
I thought it was really funny, the report you're referencing about his attitude. And I'm like, that's the one thing I'm not worried about with him. Like, yeah. I feel like
that was stupid.
I feel like
that part was dumb. I'm like, this is Deion Sanders' kid who, like, what do you think he's going to be? And I have no issue with any of that. Oh, he came off with an ego. He did. Shocker.
Right. Like for me, I was almost like, that's going to help him in the long run, probably. Because if this starts rough, he's going to be able to kind of brush it off a little bit. Granted, we know in the NFL that has a shelf life, right? But at the same time, that's going to help him in the long run because he's not going to go to a good situation. On your statement of what you said, he's not Cam Ward's he's not as good as the top three. I don't think he's good as any quarterback taken in the first round last year, besides McCarthy, who we didn't see. But I would take every quarterback over all of these quarterbacks easily,
100%,
including Penix. Like I'm putting Penix in there too. I thought Penix looked solid, at the end of the season with the Falcons. So I'm taking all of them. And then we didn't even mention Bo Nix because he wasn't the top three. I'll take all of them way over these quarterbacks at this point.
Yes. Well, he's the one that Bo Nix surprised me. He's the one that surprised me. There were others, that argued he was going to be really good. They turned out to be right. I do think it matters where he ended up. He ended up with a coach who's done really well with pocket quarterbacks like this. And you know what? It rubbed off on him. I think Shedeur needs to end up in a spot where he gets the right coach and right atmosphere around him. This is what happened to Caleb. Like, we need a redo with Caleb Williams. That was a really bad spot he ended up in with that coaching staff under that kind of strife. He needs to get into a situation where he's got a better shot to be successful. So we'll see. Couple other things. Brandon Ayuk's available. Like, he is. I don't think it's here. Like, I just cannot picture this team deciding to have 3 20 to 30 or over $1 million receivers on this team. I just don't see it. I think Washington made their move by acquiring Deebo Samuel. I believe they're going to get another receiver on the free agent market that is not at that price point at all. I like Darius Slayton. If Chris Godwin was affordable, I would love to have him. I don't think he will be, but if he were, I would love to have him. I think Slayton would be pretty good. There are some cheaper speed alternatives. If you like Hardman or Hollywood Brown, I like Slayton and Godwin above that, but I also think their price points are going to be above that. Regardless, we're going to get another receiver in here. I just don't think it's going to be this. So those who have these fever dreams are going to get both Ayuk and Samuel. I don't think so. One, I don't think we're making another trade for a receiver. And two, I just can't see how careful this team has been about what they're spending and where and what term they put on somebody. Why they would bring in someone who's got 4 years, $120 million or whatever it is left on his contract. I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see this one either. It's going to cost you probably a little bit more as well. And I don't see them bringing in 2 wide receivers from the same organization.
I agree.
And not extending McLaurin out either. Like they're not. This is just a little ridiculous to make that many moves with the same franchise. Is what I'm getting at here. I don't see that.
I agree. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Watson Show, ESPN 630 Sports Cap.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against #1 contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
All right, welcome back. I have not weighed in on this, and I've been wanting to for a couple days, which is the whole LeBron James says being the face of the NBA sucks, mainly because of the criticism that the players take on a daily basis from the punditry. And I think he's talking about essentially First Take and TNT, the two shows that are of record and matter. There's a lot of pundits out there. There are some other NBA programs, like I love the show that Beadle is doing with Lou Williams and Chandler Parsons. I think it's real. I see a lot of that stuff. It's really good. Outside of that, though, I think this is what they're talking about. It's these two, or maybe to some degree, I think they're referencing Skip Bayless or maybe Nick Right Now that gets viral about the criticism of the league. And I can't believe he said it out loud, like, number one, because LeBron James is a billionaire, okay? He's a billionaire, and he's a billionaire because of his talent and because of how much people love him, because he didn't make all that money just in basketball salaries. He made it off the court, which means there's some level of adulation that allowed him to get to this point. Two, and this, I think the most important thing, which is this is a cop-out for everybody's complaints about the way your league plays right now and how seriously people take, I'd say, the regular season, not the rest of it, the regular season. Three, you kind of made your bed here a little bit, because when you are the face of the league and you're at the forefront, you're not the first to do it, but you're at the forefront of, I'm taking my talents somewhere else because the name on the front of the jersey matters a lot less than the name on the back of the jersey. And I'm going to go where I want to go. And yes, he's played a long time, but he's moved around to different spots to try to chase championships wherever he goes. You know what? You are basically a poster child of the team brands matter less than the name brands. And therefore, if that's the position you're going to take, why in the world would you think that the criticism wouldn't be directed specifically at you when you're the one who's started a process that a lot of people have followed, because you are the face of the league, of being nomadic, not caring about what team you're on, just trying to get to whatever place you think you can win, then regretting it, then changing your mind again? A number of stars have moved around the league now in your era, more so than in the past. You're not the first. Shaq got out of Orlando, right? Shaq and Kobe had to break up in Los Angeles. Things happen. But what has changed since you've become the face of the league is this is commonplace, that major stars don't care which team they're playing on as long as they feel like they individually have a chance to win, no matter which city or team they're playing with. So I can't believe he said it out loud, because how does none of that make sense to him? And it's, again, and I think this is, I love LeBron, but he does not look in the mirror ever.
What he does is he likes to just say things like this and forgets that he's the face of the league. And then all of a sudden we're talking about it for 2 and 3 and 4 days. He likes to just casually say things, and he doesn't even know the weight of his own words, which maybe that's why he thinks it sucks being the face of the league, that everything he says is going to get, strung out and talked about and whatever. But guess what? The NBA, a part of the NBA culture is arguing. And so when it comes to him, there's a lot to argue about. Is he better than MJ? Should he have ever left the Cavs? Should he have ever left the Heat? Should he still be on the Lakers? Part of the NBA DNA of why that league is still popular as it is because people like to debate and argue about things. LeBron gives you a crap ton of stuff to argue about, and he was one of those can't miss prospects when he was a teenager, right? So when you are that guy, and you can make an argument with LeBron too, he might be the first one of the modern era that actually lived up to all of that hype, right? It wasn't social media era when he got drafted, but as all of this happened, it was the social media era, right? The Heat thing happened on ESPN, but it was one of the first major breaking stories on Twitter, right? Woj broke that story, and it was massive. We all remember where we were at when that news hit if you weren't watching it live. Because it's the way that the world revolves around now, and social media and the internet, you're the face of the league because you were the first can't miss prospect kind of growing up in that era. I get what he's saying here, but like, I don't know, not to pull like the Spider-Man move here, but like, great power, great responsibility, pal. You didn't really get to choose this because you're so good. So I don't know how you could say that like it sucks when you lived up to all of these expectations that everyone put on you too.
I saw Michael Wilbon say something to the effect of where he's like, we're not on your payroll, dude.
Right.
And I couldn't agree more. Like, we're not your PR staff. Like, we are your free marketing arm of your league. But I would say this, like, and I've been one who, and I've said this a million times, I love NBA basketball. I hate the state of the game right now for so many reasons. And it's mainly because of the players, because they collectively don't give a crap about their regular season, don't give a crap about which team they play for. They're just kind of going through the motions. Load management became something that I understood and felt was necessary for certain players like Joel Embiid right now, that turned into an excuse not to play every game. Or just to give we just don't want to play back-to-back nights. It became this, it got taken advantage of. The players took over their league. They've neutered the power of the ownership groups. They decided they're going to dictate what happens when it happens. I can't tell you how annoyed I am by the idea that everything has to have some kind of monetary value to it. That like, well, we just don't feel like playing the regular season. So we have to give you money to play an in-season tournament that's just regular season games. Or we have to figure out a way to monetize All-Star Weekend to make you want to do it when everybody knows what your salaries are. And then the style of play has gotten out of hand. They have diminished their own league. It's the players' fault, and therefore they're getting a lot of criticism for it, but they don't want to hear it. And when I heard LeBron say things like, we're trying to push our league forward and we're thankful to all the people of the past, you don't play like they do. You don't take it as seriously as they do. Now, when the playoffs roll around, you do, right? And I love the NBA playoffs, but you have made All-Star Weekend a joke. You have made the regular season a joke. You have made playing for any specific franchise pretty much a joke. And that's your fault for doing that. So you're getting criticized, I think, rightfully so. So you know who the face of the leagues need to do? They need to get everybody in the room and they need to explain to them what they're doing to themselves. Again, look in the mirror, buddy. So all of us that want the good old days of the NBA, which is all it is you care. That's it. You care as much as we do. That's all we want. And you can't see that. That's the part of this argument that I don't understand. And I'm with Wilbon with the way he said it. And Stephen A was really pushing back hard going, you're blaming me and Chuck? You're blaming me and Chuck for your problems because we're criticizing you because you don't play the game the way we were used to? Give me a break. If you guys gave half a crap the way that those older players used to, we wouldn't be having these conversations right now. We would just be talking about how great you guys are.
The other side of that too is go look at when players come along that actually play hard and play hard every night and maybe aren't the best players, but they're fun to watch. Like you and I have talked about for years now, Jimmy Butler. We both love Jimmy Butler because that dude's not the best guy in the court at all times, but he's a killer. And you see it happen all the time. I think Anthony Edwards is entering into that era too, where he looks like a guy that looks like he doesn't play around. He doesn't mess around. He has that kind of killer instinct that he got compared to MJ last year, but that's not fair. But he just has that killer instinct. I thought someone that might have had that was Trae Young. That's kind of fallen by the wayside. He's not the star we thought that he was going to be. But when those guys come around, we instantly know, oh, that dude's playing hard every night. I like that guy. I like to watch that guy. Whereas a lot of other stars in the league, it's the style of play, and you don't have to watch. And what I think happened here, too, it's funny that LeBron is saying this after the last, we'll call it 3 weeks here, off of the All-Star break and the NHL Four Nations tournament and PK Subban saying what he said too, right? Where PK Subban took a torch to the NBA.
Yeah.
He basically said, I love you guys, but go look at my sport where guys play hard every single night. There is no load management. They play every other night. They play hard. They don't need extra incentive just to do their job. And that's essentially what PK was saying. It is your job. I want the best you've got every single night because that is what you are paid to do. And somehow NBA players have now gotten into an era where they don't have to do their job and they still get paid the money and the tickets still cost the same. And you and I talk about it all the time. The Wizards absolutely suck and their tickets are so expensive. Like, how does this all make sense? It's a bubble getting ready to burst. And so for LeBron saying, oh, it sucks to be the face of the league. Well, it probably also sucks because everyone's pointing the finger at you of how did you let this happen and let it get to this point? I'm not saying it's all his fault, but a chunk of it is his fault.
Yes. I landed on after the All-Star game. I'm like, they need another Kobe to show up here. A killer who cares, who wants to be great, who demands his teammates are great. You can argue whether that's the right thing for the team or not, but you know what his priorities are. And he's never going to go out there and embarrass himself because he would be embarrassed by playing poorly. It's the Michael Jordan mentality of it. I believe LeBron wants to be great. I believe LeBron is irked that people don't say he's the greatest player of all time for whatever reason that is. There's a little Trump in there that's just like, you have to tell me how great I am all the time. Because if you don't tell me how great I am all the time, then you're a hater. And it's like, enough already with this. Like, we all admit you are a really great player, but do you elevate the people around you? Do you make the game better? Do you set a standard that people need to follow? That's what Michael did. That's what Kobe did. That's not what's happening with him. And it's like, that's what's infuriating about this argument, because it's not even an argument. It's obvious what's going on. And he's sitting there trying to blame the media for it. Give me a break.
It also happened last night. They cut into like everything saying, oh, LeBron scored 50,000. I didn't even know that was happening. Yet all of a sudden it became this big deal. And I'm like, who cares? It's just an even number. Like, it happened literally last night with him getting to 50,000 points. And it was, regular season playoffs combined or whatever. And I'm just like, what? Like, why are we even doing this? Like, I don't care. So yeah, it even happened last night.
There's one other thing I want to say about this, because the NFL is the most popular sport in this country. The NBA is number 2. Okay. Right. And so if your argument is like, we get an inordinate amount of negative attention and therefore why it sucks to be the face of the league. Let me tell you something, buddy. Lamar Jackson was projected never to be a quarterback in the NFL. And there are still people that will stand on that hill and say he's not, like, I don't know how they could have reached that point, but he did. And when he was drafted at the end of the first round, people said he's going to end up being a tight end or a running back or Taysom Hill or whatever. And he's turned out to be a 2-time MVP and could have won it again this year. Josh Allen was horrifically inaccurate and inefficient as a rookie quarterback. The Bills were getting skewered over picking him. He's ended up becoming an MVP because he's gotten better, because he cares, because Lamar Jackson cares. Like, to sit there and think that the media doesn't overly scrutinize and criticize the stars of other sports and that they have to fight through the exact same thing to get the respect that they earn. And the only way to do it is to not only improve, but elevate your teams at the same time. Guy, you are not paying attention, right? Because I could cite example after example, and I think Lamar's the best one of it, where here's a multiple-time MVP. The only knock on his resume is he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. But if you haven't come around to he's one of the best quarterbacks of his generation or the league right now, then you're not really paying attention and you're just a hater. But he proved that. He's gone through years of being told he'll never elevate to that type of thing, and he did it anyway. And I don't see him crying about how, I don't want to be the face of the league. Like, dude, get a grip and look in the mirror.
Go look at, I'll go here locally. Go look at Alex Ovechkin and what he was said for the first 15 years of his career. Don Cherry called him Euro trash on the air. Like, could you imagine of that happening in today's date? Like, today, he'd be canceled right away. I mean, great, Don Cherry's Don Cherry. He was already, on his way out. But
he was ahead of his time.
He was. He really was. But he called Ovechkin Euro trash on the air live and basically told him that he didn't belong in hockey because he was too flashy and whatever. And then people called Ovechkin fat for years. Meanwhile, he was leading the league in scoring every single year in goals. Like, every star dealt with this, and I think Ovechkin dealt with it so much for so long. And now everybody's all like warm and fuzzy about the goal record, but there's still a part of me that's bitter of like, you guys hated this dude for 15, 16 years, and then you decided to like him. Don't get me wrong, LeBron. Like, I get it. It might suck, but if you don't think some guys are dealing with it just as bad as you are, I don't really know what else to tell you. But our guy here dealt with it too.
I mean, the streamlined part of this is this, and I think this is fair. Like, in the 60s and 70s, basketball was not a big deal, not professionally. It really wasn't. Dr. J and a couple specific others came along and kind of elevated it because the game got more exciting. Magic and Larry came in and took it to a new height. Michael took it to even a further height in popularity. And I would say that Kobe maintained that. On some level, maintain that. He had to follow Michael, but the league didn't go down in popularity, and the competitive nature of it didn't go down when he was the face of the league. It's LeBron's league that has gone the wrong way, where people are complaining overly about the state of play. That's right. Your responsibility. And if you don't want to field that responsibility, then I'd say to you, then you don't deserve to be the face of the league. The face of the league should be the person who demands that this league is at its best, that its predecessors are proud of what they see, and that the league grows. And he's unwilling to see that. And that part to me is what's the hardest part about it, because there are people complaining, and I think reasonably so, about a lot of the aspects we talked about earlier. The not caring about who you play for, the play in the regular season, whether you guys give a crap about the regular season whatsoever, being forced to, like, you've ruined All-Star Weekend. You have made it so that, like, we have to incentivize everything just to get you to show up, and still at the same time, you don't half the time. You know, see you in May when it matters to you, like when it actually matters to you. And then you sit there and tell me that we're the problem because we complain about, we just want you to try hard. Oh my God. Come on, dude.
Right. Exactly right. And look, it shouldn't take you putting on the, like the colors for me to feel like this is something incredible, right? Like the Olympic run was fantastic over the summer. That was the most emotional I felt about basketball in years, mainly because it was just the last ride for Steph and LeBron at that point, right? Like it wasn't even more about winning. It was more, here's this end of an era, and this is the era that you have to speak for now.
Yes. All right, be right back. Bram Show, ESPN 630 in Sports Capital.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase of 16 weeks, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
All right, quick little couple minutes here. One, Jimmy Johnson retired from Fox. Congratulations on a great second career. He was there for 3 decades. 3 decades working with them on their set. I do believe it was time for them to go a little younger. I think this is the start of that. Terry's probably not that far behind here. But congratulations, Jimmy Johnson, on what was a really great run on the Fox set.
I always like to say this when you are in the booth or you are on the desk long enough that people don't even really remember where you came from. Jimmy Johnson falls under that category. Like, no one really remembers him at my age. No one my age remembers him as a Cowboys coach. He's the analyst on Fox, and that always means that your media career went pretty damn good.
Right. How about Super Bowl champion?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Or won a national championship.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
People realize how great a coach he was through all the years. Congratulations to him. And then tonight we got Caps back at it on the road for the first time, right, since the Four Nations thing, right? They're very up and down, right?
First game was Pittsburgh, so
that's right. Yeah. First game then they turned around and played all the home games. Very up and down homestand where they had a couple clunkers, Calgary, St. Louis. Got away with one the other night, got a couple of points out of Ottawa, even though they blew a lead. What do you think tonight?
I think tonight they probably get a nice little refocus. They traveled to New York yesterday. I kind of talked about this on my show a little bit. That 5-game homestand was the longest homestand of the season. This is just me like speculating. You get a little comfortable at home. You're just hanging out with the family, all that stuff. I think this is timing out well. You go on the road for a quick one up to New York. You refocus. Also, it's the first game Charlie Lindgren is probably going to start since he signed the extension. I think the guys will play pretty hard for him. New York also has started to unload a little bit. They made a trade over the weekend where they started to unload some guys, including Ryan Lindgren, Charlie's brother, so he's not going to play against him tonight. So I look at this one of the Caps need to get a refocus. The Rangers probably not going to do anything at the deadline to add anything. I think the Caps win tonight. I think it is going to stay low scoring, though. The scoring has dried up here a little bit over the last week.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram What's the Show, ESPN 630, The Sports Capital.